All right. Ready to dive deep into the world of Salvador Dali.
Let's do it.
Okay, so everyone knows the melting clocks, right?
Mm.
And maybe even the lobster phone.
Right.
But today we're going way beyond that.
And deeper.
Yeah, deeper.
Love it.
And we're going to be looking at Dali through this really interesting lens.
Okay.
The Enneagram's sexual 4 personality type,
Interesting.
using excerpts from an article that you actually shared with me.
Yeah, that's a really insightful way to look at his work.
Definitely.
The sexual 4 is known for, all this intense emotion, right?
Yeah.
Fascination with their shadow self,
Mm-hmm.
this drive to be totally unique.
Okay.
It's going to be fascinating to see how all that played out,
Yeah.
in his art and in his life, too.
I think it's like a perfect match
I think so, too.
because, the article talks about how the sexual 4 has this, heightened sensitivity.
Yeah.
Like they experience their own emotions so intensely,
Right.
but also the emotions of like other people
Exactly.
on like a much deeper level.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So is that why like Dali's art explores themes of like, melancholy and desire,
Yeah.
solitude?
I think that's absolutely a key connection.
Right.
If you look at the recurring motifs in his work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those distorted figures,
Yeah.
those barren landscapes,
Yeah.
these aren't just like stylistic choices,
Yeah.
These are visual representations of those intense emotions that he was dealing with.
Yeah. It's like he's taking these like raw, powerful feelings.
Right.
And like transforming them into something tangible,
Mm-hmm.
something like captivating
Exactly.
through his art.
And this intensity wasn't just limited to his canvases either, right?
Right.
Dalí famously said, I myself am a surrealist work of art.
Oh, wow.
He lived his life as a performance,
Yeah.
pushing those boundaries,
Yeah.
embracing all that eccentricity.
And this is where things get really intriguing,
Okay.
The article dives into the shadow,
Right.
which are these like hidden, often uncomfortable parts of our personality.
Exactly.
And Dalí, he wasn't afraid to like confront the shadow,
No, he wasn't.
both in his art and in his life.
His work is full of shatter imagery,
Right.
melting clocks, symbolizing that decay.
Yeah.
You see those recurring motifs of like decomposing animals,
Yeah.
those desolate landscapes too.
Right.
It's almost as if he's inviting us to confront those darker aspects of ourselves.
Yeah. Alongside him.
Right.
Yeah. It's certainly not your typical, pretty picture
Right.
art.
No.
There's a rawness there,
Yes.
a vulnerability,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still somehow so captivating,
It is.
Like, and the persistence of memory.
Right.
Those melting clocks aren't just like weird.
Right.
They tap into something primal,
Yeah.
something that we all grapple with, like
Mhm.
time slipping away,
Yeah.
the inevitability of change.
And the way those clocks are like draped over the branches, it's almost like they're being swallowed up by nature.
Yeah.
It's not just about time. It's about our fear of being consumed by these forces that are totally beyond our control.
It's just fascinating how those seemingly simple images
Mm-hmm.
can like evoke such complex emotions,
Exactly. And it speaks to the power of symbolism, right?
Right.
Dalí's art, it's not about giving us easy answers.
Right.
It's about asking those difficult questions,
Mm-hmm.
forcing us to like confront our anxieties,
Yeah.
and ultimately like engaging with the shadow side of,
Yeah.
the human experience.
So we have this sensitive,
Yeah.
introspective artist grappling with these, darker aspects of existence.
Right.
But the article also highlights the sexual 4's arrogant striving,
Mm-hmm.
this need to be exceptional
Yeah.
to stand out.
Right.
And Dalí definitely embodied that too.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Remember that infamous declaration?
Oh, yeah.
I am surrealism.
Yeah.
That wasn't just like a statement. It was
Yeah.
a challenge.
Right.
It was a proclamation of his own like unique genius.
Mhm.
And it's completely in line with that sexual 4's competitive drive.
Totally.
Right.
And think about like his rivalry with Picasso.
Yes.
It wasn't just about, artistic differences.
Right.
It was about proving, who was the true master of surrealism,
Yeah.
who could push the boundaries further,
Right.
who could captivate the world's attention.
Exactly.
And his tactics were like just as bold as his art.
Oh, yeah.
Arriving at an exhibition in a diving suit,
Come on.
that's not just eccentricity.
No.
It's calculated showmanship.
Right.
It's a way of like solidifying that image of himself as like the ultimate artistic provocateur.
Exactly.
So is this all just a facade? Was Dalí more concerned with fame than like genuine artistic expression?
That's a great question.
Or could this over-the-top persona be another like manifestation of his shadow?
It could be.
Way of like masking those vulnerabilities.
That's a question that continues to spark debate.
Right.
I mean, it's tempting to dismiss him as just a showman.
Yeah.
But I think there's more to it than that.
Yeah.
Dalí understood the power of image.
Yeah.
The way we all construct these personas
Mm-hmm.
to navigate the world.
It's like he was playing with that idea.
Yeah.
Pushing it to its limits,
Yeah.
asking us to consider how much of our own identities are performance versus like genuine self-expression.
Exactly.
And in a world of like, social media
Right.
and carefully curated online personas,
Right.
it's a question that feels even more relevant today, don't you think?
It absolutely does.
Right.
And that's like the brilliance of Dalí.
Right.
He wasn't afraid to ask those uncomfortable questions, to challenge conventions,
Yeah.
and to make us confront our own shadows.
And it's not just about like the dark stuff either.
No.
He was fascinated by beauty,
Right.
with pushing the boundaries of artistic expression.
Absolutely.
Which, of course, leads us to surrealism.
Yeah.
What do you think drew him to this particular movement?
Well, surrealism, is all about dreams. It's the subconscious,
Right.
tapping into that irrational.
Mm-hmm.
It's about exploring that hidden world
Yeah.
that's beneath the surface of everyday life.
And that seems to be perfectly aligned with, like,
It does.
everything we've been talking about with Dalí.
Right.
The intense emotions,
Yeah.
his fascination with the shadow,
Mhm.
his desire to, like, break free from convention.
Exactly.
It's almost as if, like, surrealism gave him the perfect artistic language
It did.
to express that unique vision.
It allowed him to explore his fascination with symbolism, to
Yeah.
create these dreamlike scenes that blur the lines between reality and fantasy.
Think about those recurring symbols,
Right.
like the melting clocks,
Yeah.
crutches.
Not just random images,
Right.
They're a deeply personal vocabulary
Right.
that he used to like explore his own psyche and
Yeah.
to connect with those universal human experiences.
And it wasn't just about the visuals.
No.
Dalí was like a master of technical skill,
Yes, he was.
creating these incredibly detailed and often disturbingly realistic paintings
Right.
that just drew you in
Yeah.
and like made you feel
He
something,
felt it.
whether you understood the symbolism or not.
Exactly.
He was a true master of his craft,
He was.
blending that technical brilliance
Yeah,
with like imaginative vision.
absolutely.
And that's part of what makes his work so enduring.
I agree.
Right.
And that brings us to another crucial piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
Gala,
Okay.
Dalí's relationship with his muse and wife,
Right.
it was complex, to say the least,
Right.
and it played a vital role in shaping his art.
Gala wasn't just a model or a romantic partner.
No, she was so much more.
She was his confidant, his
Right.
business manager,
Mm,
this constant source of inspiration. It
exactly.
was a really passionate relationship.
It was.
And often tumultuous, wasn't it?
It was, and it reflects that intensity and complexity
Mhm.
of the sexual four personality type.
Right.
There was this deep dependence.
Yeah.
An almost obsessive devotion,
Mm.
but also moments of conflict
Yeah.
and creative tension.
Yeah, it's like their relationship itself became like a source of creative fuel for Dalí,
It did.
with Gala appearing in his work as both, a symbol of ideal beauty,
Right.
but also a representation of like his fears of loss and abandonment.
Exactly. It was a partnership that defied easy categorization,
Right.
full of those contradictions, complexities.
And it's a reminder that relationships, especially for someone like Dalí,
Right.
were never straightforward.
No?
They were messy,
Yeah.
passionate,
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately intertwined with his artistic expression.
Absolutely.
So we've uncovered a lot about Dalí so far.
We have.
His personality,
Mm.
fascination with the shadow,
Yeah.
that flamboyant persona,
Right.
his relationship with Gala.
It's clear that he was a multifaceted individual
Yeah.
who defied easy categorization,
Right.
and his art reflects that complexity,
Yeah.
challenging us to look deeper, to question our assumptions,
Right.
and to embrace the full spectrum of the human experience.
And I'm curious, beyond the shock value
Yeah.
and the surreal imagery,
Mm.
what can we truly learn from Dalí's life and work?
That's a great question.
What wisdom can we glean from this, like, eccentric genius?
We'll dive into that after a quick. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fascinating how he was able to weave all those, personal experiences, anxieties, and artistic vision into such a powerful and enduring body of work.
You mentioned earlier how Dalí's relationship with Gala
Yeah.
and the sexual four's intensity
Mm-hmm.
played a role in his art.
Right.
Can we dig a little deeper into that?
Of course, think
Actually,
about Gala as more than just like a muse. She
yeah,
was his business manager,
yeah,
his confidant, this
right,
driving force in his life.
yeah,
Their relationship really mirrored that push and pull of the sexual four
right,
with that intense passion and dependence,
yeah.
but also that, conflict and that creative tension.
It seems like that tension fueled his art,
It did.
with Gala becoming this recurring subject,
Right.
sometimes idealized,
Yeah.
other time fragmented or distorted.
Exactly. Gala became a symbol for so much in his work.
Right,
His desire for connection,
right,
his fear of loss,
right.
his fascination with the feminine.
Yeah,
Look at the Madonna of Portlaget, for example.
okay,
Gala is portrayed as this maternal figure,
right,
but there's this element of surreal distortion
yeah,
that adds this layer of complexity
yeah.
to that traditional image.
It's like he's exploring the multifaceted nature of their relationship.
He is.
The Madonna archetype
Right.
juxtaposed with the very real complexities of their partnership.
Precisely. And that complexity is a hallmark of Dalí's work.
Right.
He wasn't interested in simple representations.
Yeah.
He wanted to delve into those contradictions,
Yeah.
the shadows, the
Yeah.
things that make us uncomfortable.
Right. And he did it with such technical skill, creating these hyper-realistic images
Yeah.
that almost dare you to look away.
They do.
Right.
His mastery of technique is undeniable.
Yeah.
It's that combination,
Mhm.
of technical brilliance and imaginative vision
Right.
that elevates his work beyond just shock value.
Right.
He understood how to use realism
Yeah.
to make the surreal even more unsettling, more
Yeah.
impactful.
Okay. But we also have to address the elephant in the room.
Okay.
Or maybe the lobster on the phone.
Right, right.
How much of Dalí's art was genuine self-expression?
Yeah.
And how much was calculated provocation?
It's a question that's been debated for decades.
Right.
Was he a genius of a charlatan or a bit of both?
Yeah.
There's no easy answer.
He certainly knew how to grab attention.
He did.
Arriving at lectures in a Rolls Royce filled with cauliflower,
I mean, come on.
proclaiming himself the reincarnation of Velasquez.
Right.
It's
Yeah, his antics were legendary.
yeah,
But I think it's too simplistic to just dismiss him as a showman.
right?
Remember, he was living in a time when artists like Duchamp were already challenging traditional notions of art.
Right.
Dalí took those ideas,
Yeah.
amplified them,
Yeah.
crafted a persona as much as he created art.
So are we saying that the persona was part of the art?
I think it's more nuanced than that.
Okay.
It's he was asking, what is art?
Right.
Who decides what's valuable?
Mhm.
Can the artist's personality be a work of art itself?
Yeah.
These were questions that were so central
Right.
to the avant-garde movements of his time.
Yeah.
And Dalí engaged with them
Yeah.
in his own unique way.
It's fascinating to think about how his deliberate blurring of the lines
Yeah.
between art and life
hmm
actually reflects those deeper artistic and philosophical questions.
It does.
It's not just about the melting clocks.
Right.
It's about challenging our entire perception
Yeah.
of what art can be.
And it's a challenge that continues to resonate today.
Right.
In a world obsessed with image and self-promotion,
Mm-hmm.
Dalí's legacy feels strangely relevant.
Yeah.
He forces us to ask,
Right.
how much of our identity is genuine and how much is performance?
Right.
What are we trying to express?
Yeah.
And what are we trying to hide?
It's like he's holding up a mirror to our own carefully curated online personas,
He is.
making us question the authenticity
Hmm.
of the images we project.
Exactly. And whether you love him or hate him,
Right.
there's no denying that Dalí made us think. He provoked, he pushed boundaries.
He also aligned himself with the surrealist movement,
He did.
which seems like a natural fit
Yeah.
for someone with his personality and artistic sensibilities.
Absolutely.
Can we delve into that a bit further?
Of course, Surrealism was this revolutionary movement
Yeah.
that sought to explore the unconscious mind,
Right.
to break free from the constraints of reason and logic. It embraced dreams, chance encounters,
Mhm.
the power of the irrational.
And Dalí took those ideas and ran with them,
He did.
creating these dreamlike landscapes,
Yeah.
populated with bizarre and often unsettling imagery.
His work perfectly captures the essence of surrealism.
Right.
That juxtaposition of the familiar with the strange,
Mm-hmm.
that blurring of reality and fantasy,
Yeah.
the exploration of hidden desires and anxieties.
But it wasn't just about, like, shocking people.
No.
There was a real depth to his symbolism.
Absolutely.
Those melting clocks, for instance.
Right.
They represent more than just the passage of time.
They do.
They symbolize our anxieties about mortality, about the relentless and unforgiving nature of time itself,
Exactly.
and the crutches that appear so frequently in his work.
Right.
They represent a sense of fragility,
Yeah.
our dependence on, like, external support, both physical and emotional.
Right.
It's a powerful metaphor for, like, the human condition,
It is.
the vulnerability that lies beneath the surface of our, like, carefully constructed facades.
It's amazing how those, like, simple objects can carry such profound meaning.
Yeah, that's the power of symbolism.
It is.
Dalí was like a master of using everyday objects
Yeah.
to evoke such complex emotions and ideas.
Right.
He understood that art doesn't have to be literal.
No, it
It
doesn't.
can speak to us on, like, a deeper,
Right.
more subconscious level.
Exactly.
So we've talked about Dalí's personality, his
Yeah.
relationship with Gala, his embrace of surrealism, and his mastery of symbolism.
We have.
But there's still something I'm grappling with.
Okay.
What are we supposed to take away from all of this?
That's a good question.
How do we, like, apply these lessons to our own lives?
Right.
Especially when most of us aren't, like, eccentric surrealist painters.
That's an excellent question.
Yeah.
And I think there are several valuable lessons that we can glean
How much so?
from Dalí's life and work, even if we don't share his, artistic talent or his flamboyant personality.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Right.
What can we learn from this master of the surreal?
First and foremost, I think Dalí teaches us
Yeah.
the importance of embracing our individuality.
Okay.
He was unapologetically himself,
Right.
even when it meant going against the grain,
Right.
challenging those conventions,
Yeah.
courting controversy.
He certainly wasn't afraid to stand out from the crowd.
And that's like a powerful message for all of us
Right.
in a world that often pressures us to conform,
Yeah.
to fit in, to be normal.
Right.
Dalí reminds us that our unique perspectives, our quirks, our individualities, that's what makes us interesting.
Right.
That's what makes us valuable.
So lesson number 1,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to be yourself,
Right.
even if it means being a little bit strange, a little bit different.
Embrace your inner weirdo.
I love that.
Right. Now, another important lesson we can learn from Dalí
Okay.
is the power of imagination. He wasn't content with simply representing the world as it was.
Right.
He wanted to create new worlds,
Yeah.
to explore the realm of dreams and fantasies.
It seemed like he had, like, a boundless capacity for creativity,
He did.
for seeing the world through, like, a different lens.
And that's something we can all cultivate.
Right.
Regardless of our profession or artistic abilities,
Yeah.
imagination is not just for artists.
Right.
It's essential for problem solving, innovation,
Yeah.
finding joy in like the everyday.
So lesson number 2, let your imagination run wild.
Exactly.
Don't be afraid to dream, to experiment, to see the world through a different lens.
Precisely. Now, a third lesson, I think that's particularly relevant today,
Okay.
is the importance of authenticity.
Okay.
Dalí, for all his showmanship and theatricality, was always true to himself.
Right.
He never compromised his vision or his values
Yeah.
to please others or to conform to expectations.
It seemed like he had this unwavering self-belief.
He did.
Like a confidence that allowed him to pursue his artistic vision without apology.
And while it's easy to criticize his arrogance,
Right.
I think there's something to be said for that unwavering belief in himself and his work. It
Yeah.
allowed him to ignore the naysayers, to push boundaries,
Yeah.
and to create art that was both groundbreaking and deeply personal.
So lesson number 3, believe in yourself and your vision.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to express your unique perspective, even if it means going against the grain
Right.
or challenging the status quo.
Exactly. Now, of course, it's important to be mindful
Yeah.
of that fine line between confidence and arrogance,
Right.
between self-promotion and genuine self-expression.
Right. We don't all need to be Dalí-level eccentric
No, we don't.
to embrace our individuality or to express our creativity.
Absolutely. The key is to find your own balance,
Right.
your own way of expressing your unique vision
Yeah.
while staying true to your values.
Right.
And that's a journey that's unique to each individual.
It sounds like Dalí's legacy is as much about asking questions
It is.
as it is about providing answers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He wasn't interested in spoon-feeding us his interpretations or
Yeah.
telling us what to think.
Yeah.
He wanted us to engage with his work,
Mm-hmm.
to grapple with, like, the questions it raised,
Right.
and to find our own meaning within it.
And that's like a powerful reminder for us as viewers,
It is.
as listeners, as consumers of art and culture.
Right.
We're not passive recipients.
Yeah.
We're active participants in the creative process.
We are.
You know, it's up to us to engage with the work,
Yeah.
to think critically,
Hmm.
and to find our own interpretations.
Precisely. And that's how art truly becomes meaningful,
Right.
how it resonates with us on, like, a personal level,
Yeah.
how it stays with us long after we've left the museum or closed the book.
It sounds like Dalí's legacy is as much about challenging us
It is.
as it is about inspiring us.
Absolutely. He challenged our perceptions of art, of reality,
Yeah.
of ourselves. Right. And in doing so, he opened up new possibilities for creative expression, for self-discovery, for embracing the full spectrum of human experience.
He certainly pushed the boundaries of what art could be.
He did.
And in doing so,
Yeah.
he pushed us to expand our own boundaries, our own understanding of the world and of ourselves.
And I think that's the most valuable lesson we can take away from Dalí.
Yep.
The importance of pushing boundaries,
Yeah.
of challenging conventions, of never settling for easy answers
Right.
or simplistic interpretations.
So as we move toward the end of our deep dive,
Okay.
what final thoughts would you like to leave our listener with?
Okay.
How could we apply these lessons to our own lives
Right.
beyond, simply appreciating Dalí's art?
I think the key takeaways is
Okay.
Dalí's life and work remind us that it's okay to be different, to
Yeah.
be unconventional,
Right?
to embrace our contradictions. He encourages us to tap into our imaginations,
Right.
to find our own creative voices,
Yeah.
and to express ourselves authentically without fear of judgment or rejection.
That's a powerful message,
It is.
and one that resonates deeply,
It does.
especially in a world that often pressures us to conform.
It does. And while we may not all be destined
Right.
to become like world-renowned surrealist painters,
Yeah.
we can all embrace those core values:
Right.
individuality, imagination, authenticity.
So how do we translate those values into action?
Right.
How do we take those lessons
Yeah.
from the world of art
Mm-hmm.
and apply them to our everyday lives?
That's where the real work begins.
Right.
And it's a journey that's unique to each individual. But I think it starts with cultivating a sense of curiosity,
Okay.
a willingness to experiment,
Yeah.
a commitment to expressing ourselves authentically.
It sounds like Dalí's legacy is about more than just art. It's about living a more creative,
Yeah.
a more authentic, a more fulfilling life.
Precisely. And that's a legacy worth celebrating.
Wow, it feels like we've only scratched the surface of Dalí's world, even after this deep dive.
I know, right?
His life and work are just so rich with symbolism and contradictions and artistic brilliance.
There's always more to uncover with Dalí.
Right.
But I think we've hit on some like key takeaways
Yeah.
that resonate beyond just art. Those
Right.
ideas of embracing individuality,
Yeah.
nurturing imagination, expressing ourselves authentically.
Right.
Those are principles we can all apply to our own lives.
You mentioned earlier that it's a journey that's unique to each person.
It is.
So where do we even begin?
Right.
How do we take these abstract concepts and translate them into tangible actions?
It starts with like a shift in perspective,
Yeah.
a willingness to see the world through a different lens.
Okay.
Think about Dalí's playful approach to reality,
Mhm.
his constant questioning of norms.
Right.
What if, instead of just accepting things at face value, we approached our everyday lives with a sense of curiosity
Okay.
and like a touch of surrealism?
So instead of just going through the motions,
Yeah.
we try to find the unexpected,
Right.
the absurd,
Yeah.
the hidden beauty in the mundane,
Exactly.
like finding a lobster on the phone in our own lives.
Exactly. It's about cultivating that childlike wonder,
Yeah.
that ability to see the extraordinary within the ordinary.
I like that.
Right. It could be as simple as taking a different route to work,
Okay.
trying a new recipe, striking up a conversation with a stranger.
Yeah.
It's about breaking free from routine
Right.
and embracing that element of surprise.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
It's about making life itself a bit more artful,
Right.
a bit more playful.
Exactly.
But what about those of us who maybe feel a bit stifled,
Yeah.
creatively speaking?
Right.
We're not all born with Dalí's flamboyant personality
Right.
or artistic talent.
That's where embracing our individuality comes in. Remember, creativity isn't limited to just painting or sculpting.
Right.
It can manifest in countless ways. Writing, gardening, cooking.
Yeah.
Even the way we approach our work
Right.
or interact with others.
It's about finding what sparks joy for you.
Exactly.
What ignites your passion.
Yeah.
And then giving yourself permission to, like, explore it.
Exactly.
So instead of comparing ourselves to Dalí's, grand artistic gestures,
Right.
we can focus on finding our own unique forms of self-expression,
Yeah.
even in, like, the smallest details of our lives.
Absolutely. It could be as simple as like rearranging your furniture,
Yeah, okay.
trying a new hairstyle, writing a heartfelt letter to a friend.
Right.
It's about finding those small acts of creativity
Yeah.
that bring meaning and joy to your everyday experience.
It's like we're all artists in our own way,
We are.
shaping our lives into like a personal masterpiece.
I love that.
And that ties back to Dalí's famous quote,
Yeah.
"I myself am a surrealist work of art." He wasn't just talking about his paintings.
No, he wasn't.
He was talking about his entire approach to life.
Precisely, he turned his life into a performance.
Right.
A constant exploration of self-expression and creative possibility.
And while we might not all want to live quite as flamboyantly as Dalí,
Right.
we can all learn from his like unwavering commitment to authenticity
Yeah.
and his refusal to conform to societal expectations.
Absolutely. He certainly wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo,
Yeah.
to push boundaries, and to make people uncomfortable.
And in doing so,
Yeah.
he opened up new ways of thinking.
It did.
New ways of seeing the world.
And that's the true legacy of Dalí.
Yeah.
It's not just about the melting clocks or the lobster phone. It's about that spirit of creative exploration, the courage to be different,
Yeah.
the willingness to embrace the unknown.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what final thought would you leave our listener with? What's the one thing you hope they take away from our exploration of Salvador Dalí?
I hope they leave with a sense of possibility,
Okay.
a spark of inspiration to tap into their own creative potential.
Mm-hmm.
Dalí's life and work remind us that the world is full of wonder and surprise,
Yeah.
that we all have the capacity to create, to imagine, to express ourselves in unique and meaningful ways.
And maybe to embrace a little bit of that Dalínian spirit,
I love that.
to find the surreal in the everyday,
Yes.
to challenge our assumptions,
Mm-hmm.
and to never stop exploring the depths of our own creativity.
Beautifully said. Remember, the world is your canvas.
Yes.
Now go out there and create your own masterpiece.